Yeah, make sure you press it.
Years ago.
Right, good afternoon everybody. As you know, I'm Sam Pierce from SWATT Books, and I am a book designer and self-publishing consultant. Now, what you may not know is that I have over 20 years of print design experience behind me. I've been running my own company since 2010. In 2013 though, I kind of fell into book design and found that I absolutely loved it. It was a really, really great fit for me. So I completely rebranded my company, and book design is now solely what I do. However, at the end of 2015, I had an author come to me saying, look, I've got this self-publishing account. The guy who manages it at the minute is going to Australia and kind of leaving me high and dry. Do you mind taking it over for me? And I thought, well, okay, I don't really know, too much about publishing. If you're, willing for me to learn on the job, I'll give it a go. So, did that. Found that self-publishing is actually really straightforward. The only problem is that the process that's involved is very, very linear. If you forget one particular point, it can cause some problems if you get things a bit mixed up and do them in the wrong order. But it kind of gave me an insight into what authors really go through outside of actually publishing their books. And I decided that it was sort of the icing on the cake for what I supply, is to be able to offer that managed self-publishing as well. Now, with a lot of the authors that I've worked with, and I've been privileged to be involved in the publishing of over 40 titles now, I talked to a lot of those authors about why they decided to self-publish versus traditional publishing. And I also speak to a lot of authors who traditional publishing is still their main primary goal. And then, so I kind of asked them, why is that a big draw for you? And they come back with things like, well, it will give me more credibility. It validates what I'm doing and what I'm saying. And it also, then the big advance check when you sign a deal is obviously quite a big draw as well. And they also assume that by going through a traditional publisher, things are going to be easier. Unfortunately, the majority of those points are not actually true. If you actually really break it down as to what's involved in a traditional publishing deal, it makes more sense, especially for first-time authors, to go down the route of self-publishing instead of traditional publishing. And there are 6 main reasons why. So the first one is reduced royalty. This is kind of a no-brainer. It's economics 101. As soon as you get another party involved, they're going to want to take their cut. However, what most authors don't realize is that the traditional publishing houses, just how much of a cut they take. On average, a traditionally published author can get about 10% of their cover price as a royalty. And to be honest, I've seen publishing deals where that number is low as 5%. Compare that with self-publishing, and if you are very clever about your print specifications and you price the cost of your book really well, you can get anywhere between 50 to 70% of your cover price, and that is all yours. The next reason is time to market. Now, for a traditional publishing company, you will consider yourself lucky if your book sees the light of day within a year. Now, certainly for business owners and people who are writing books to support their business, not many businesses are going to be planning more than a year in advance. So the idea of making sure that your book is going to support your business, if you've got to wait a year before it actually gets out there, it's just not really very viable. So self-publishing is definitely a better solution for that sort of situation, because with self-publishing, even if you do it properly and invest in professionals to help you through the process, on average you're looking at about 3 to 4 months to go from a finished manuscript to your book being on sale. It's much, much different than a year, usually that's something that you can quite easily plan into your marketing schedules. The next top point is creative control. Now, what a lot of authors lose sight of the fact is that publishing houses are companies. They have a brand image that they need to maintain. So they will have in-house styles that your book, regardless of what your book is about, will be formatted to one of their particular styles so that they can maintain a level of brand image. Now, in terms of the covers, depending on the publisher that you're working with, they may give you a couple of options for you to choose from, but as far as they're concerned, it is a numbers game. That cover is going to be designed to sell copies and nothing else. It may not necessarily be the best cover for your book. You may get a couple of options to choose from, but at the end of the day, it is still their decision because they're footing the bill. Creative control also comes down into the editing as well. I've spoken with authors who've been traditionally published, and they've said that the manuscript that's come back after editing was almost like a completely different book from what they originally submitted, because you get very, very little interaction and collaboration with the editor. They just go away, edit it, and you don't have very, very much say in it, because again, you're not the one who's paying the bill. The publishing company is. The next reason is relinquishing the rights to your book, and this is a bit of a contentious issue in the publishing industry. Now, as the author, you wrote the book, so the creative copyright over the actual content is always going to be yours. However, what most authors don't realize is that the actual rights of the finished published book belongs to whoever owns the ISBN number. And with traditional publishing companies, it's going to be the publisher that has purchased the ISBN number, not you. So it means that they have ownership and rights of that physical book, and they can do with it whatever they want. They can set it to whatever price. They can discount it if they want to. And that copyright lasts for a lot longer than most people realize. Publishing copyright lasts for the life of the author plus 70 years. So not only are you signing over the rights to your book, you're also signing over the rights for your children as well. So if you think of this as leaving a book as a legacy, traditional publishing is not the way to go. Going down the route of self-publishing, if you purchase the ISBN numbers in your name, you retain complete copyright over not only the content, but also the physical book as well. Okay? Marketing. A lot of people assume that if they go with a traditional publishing company, that the publisher is going to do all of the marketing for them. I'm afraid that's just not the case. Depending on how much money that publisher has invested in your book, they may put some marketing into the launch behind it. They may choose your book as book of the month and may do a bit of marketing then. But in the grand scheme of things, marketing of your book is still going to be down to you. You're still going to have to do all of the work on social media. You're the one who's going to have to go and do all of the book signings and all of the blog tours and speaking engagements and things like that to keep your name in people's minds and actually getting copies sold. And this leads on to the last point, and this is something that I've only recently been made aware of, and it's something that's becoming more and more popular with publishing companies, and they're starting to kind of introduce this into the fine print of their contracts. If you think of this from the publisher's point of view, publishing a book from an author that they've never heard of before in an industry they may not be fully aware of, it is a bit of a risk for them. So in order to mitigate that risk, a lot of publishers are inserting minimum sales clauses into their contracts, which means if you don't sell a certain number of copies, you get penalized. That penalty can either be financial or they have the right to drop your book. And by signing this contract, you are agreeing that you will sell a certain number of copies. And those certain number of copies, as we mentioned at the beginning, is going to line the publisher's pockets, not yours. However, even after all of that, there are still some authors that think, okay, I appreciate all of that, I understand what you're saying, but I still want that traditional publishing deal because they still see the credibility and they still see that having a traditional publishing company behind them is going to give their book legitimacy. Fair enough. In that situation, what I would always recommend, self-publish first and use that as a springboard to get you the traditional publishing deal. In that scenario, all of the bargaining power then reverts back to you because you are going to the publisher with a following of fans already. You've already got proven sales for your book, and it just gives you more strength, more bargaining power to be able to negotiate that contract more in your favor as opposed to theirs. You can ask for more royalty, you can ask for marketing support, you can ask to see if there's any leeway in the copyrights and being able to buy back your rights after a certain amount of time. Things like that. Whereas if you don't have any of that backing behind you before you go to them, all of the power is theirs. They can ask for whatever they want. Okay? One last point that I would make around the ideas of credibility and legitimacy. For a minute, I just want you to think about your favorite book or the book that's helped you the most in your business recently. More than likely, you're going to know who the author is, right? How many of you know who the publisher is?
Fine.
Okay, so having a traditional publishing deal doesn't mean what it used to be. I'm Sam Pierce from SWATT Books, and I'm making self-publishing professional. So thank you for listening. If you've got any questions, I'd love to answer them. Yeah.
Just quickly, I have a friend who's been looking to getting published for a while. He's one of these history geeks that specialises in the subject.
Okay.
Is that something you could help him with?
I can help him with it, but the most important thing that he needs to consider is getting an editor who has history book experience. Because what is going to make or break his book is making sure that every single fact that is in that book is true, or at least corroborated somewhere else. And a good editor will be able to cross-reference all of that and make sure that everything is above board. Okay? Yeah.
I found that was interesting. Thanks. I thought about bookshops. Are they equally happy to, whether electronic or physical, are they happy to stock self-publishers in just the same way?
The way in which you go about self-publishing your book has a lot of influence on that.
Right.
Bookstores are becoming more and more open to self-published authors, but the big distribution companies like Bartram's or Gardner's, it's very easy to get a distribution contract with them, which gets you into all of the big bookstores. And if you use one of the reputable self-publishing platforms, the one that I would recommend is Ingram Spark, they will automatically get you into the websites of all of those bookstores automatically as part of the package. And it's,
But I guess that advice is the kind of what it is that you're offering your clients, is it?
it is,
Yeah, okay,
yes.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Are virtually all books now, do they all have to go through the print, or do some go straight to audio books now?
Yeah, there are quite a number of books that are going direct to audio. There are a lot of books that are just going ebook only. I would always recommend to authors that if you have the budget available, you do at least print and ebook, and if you can stretch to audio as well, then do all three. Because you will find people that will buy a print book for their bookshelves. They will also buy an ebook for their Kindle for when they're commuting to and from work or going on holiday, or they will have an audiobook as well for listening to in the car. So, why limit yourself to selling just one version of your book when you can sell three to the same
But
reader?
regardless of whatever the medium is, the hassles that you just pointed out are still the same.
Yeah.
And the pros and cons.
Yeah.
Because you say 10% at the beginning. So somebody writing a book goes through all that is going to get 10%.
Mhm.
That sucks.
It does.
And less than that if they sell on Amazon.
Hmm?
Less than that if they sell a book on Amazon.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What are the big changes you've seen since you started doing this, and what do you see as the big changes over the next 10 years that are coming?
the biggest changes that I've seen is the ease in which people can self-publish a book. And to be honest, that is a little bit of a double-edged sword. Because it is so easy to publish a book, there are a lot of people that are just throwing their books up there without any thought to editing, without any thought to design, typesetting, not thinking about the marketing behind it and everything like that. And it is giving self-publishing a slightly tarnished name, and it's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I do, is to try and salvage that, to say, look, self-publishing can be professional, it can be done properly. The biggest advice that I can give to anybody is, if you are going to do a book, treat it like a business. Think about it like a business. Put a plan in place. Think about budgets. Think about marketing plan. Things like that. Regardless of what type of book you're writing, treat it like a business, and you will make a proper job of it.
It was interesting on the point where you said the editors get hold of it and come back and just talk. Years ago, a friend of mine actually wrote a book. I think he'd wanted to do it for years, etc., etc. It went off to the publishing editors, whatever. Came back and said it was practically the same thing. Practically different books. That's not what I had in mind.
No.
I wouldn't change it. It's just this or nothing.
Yeah, because in a lot of it will be dictated by the publisher's house style. But going down the route of self-publishing, you're paying for the editor, and you can then work more collaboratively with the editor. Good editors they'll go through it, they'll do an edit, make all of the comments and changes, but they'll have them as track changes, send it back to you for you to review and say, okay, I agree with those changes, don't agree with this, I'm kind of losing my voice a little bit, this is what I intended to say, and it ends up being more of a two-way process, that at the end you get a book that is still professionally edited and reads correctly, but is still maintaining your voice and what you want to say.
Cool.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
You have to get it right, Sam. Let's behave.
Just
Yeah.
Professional.